Hi, I'm Stephanie Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Lost in the woods? Don't do this. Cassie, along with her parents and younger brother Danny, headed into the northern corner of Minnesota. They had booked a cabin deep in the forest. This wasn't the kind of vacation that the Johnsons typically took. They usually ended up on a beach or in New York City visiting some relatives. But Cassie was determined to show them her love of the woods. She suspected they were afraid of bears and other wildlife, and there were other stories of people disappearing in the park. But by the end of the first day, the whole family was enchanted by the beauty of the forest, the towering trees, and the sounds of the creatures living within it. As the days went by, the Johnsons began to notice some strange occurrences. One morning, they awoke to find a dead deer in front of the cabin. Somebody or something had bitten into it, but they discarded most of the carcass. Cassie also noticed the animals that normally roamed freely in the woods seemed frightened of every sound. Despite the absence of the breeze, the trees themselves shuddered and shook. That night, Cassie had a weird dream. She saw a figure who looked like her mother biting into a dead deer out the window. But when she crept over for a closer look, the figure disappeared, and she woke up. It had been a terrible dream, Cassie thought as she rolled over to get comfortable again. She noticed fresh bloodstains on her pillow. Shaking her head, she wiped her mouth, finding more blood. She didn't sleep much that night, turning the pillow over so no one else saw the stains. She had no idea how to explain it. The following day, Cassie told her brother Danny about her dream, and he suggested they all go for a hike to take her mind off it. The family stumbled upon an old tree that seemed to have a face carved into it, giving it an eerily human quality. They were already somewhat unsettled when they suddenly heard a deep and menacing voice. It said, "Leave this place at once or face the wrath of the forest." Cassie's father felt an icy fear grip his stomach as he hurried them back towards the cabin, one arm protectively around Cassie's trembling shoulders. "We'll leave early tomorrow morning," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. But Cassie couldn't sleep. As it was already bad enough with the events prior, a noise from outside startled her, and she tiptoed out of the bed and over to the window. There was her mother walking barefoot, in a trance-like just as her dream from the previous night. A dead deer lay near the doorstep, and Cassie's mother was headed into the forest. Not wanting to wake the others, she calmed herself down, pulled on her boots and a jacket, and began to carefully follow her mother. She moved as quickly as she could, but lost sight of her soon enough. Not wanting to turn back, she wandered deeper into the forest. Before long, Cassie was lost, not knowing how far she had gone or how long she had been walking. But just like the night before, something compelled her to keep moving. Then there it was, the same tree with its malevolent expression. And standing in front of it, looking up in rapture, was her mother. To the casual observer, it might seem to be just a tree, very old and gnarled. But Cassie could feel the malevolent energy all around. Cassie's mother turned to look at her. She looked unlike herself, like something evil was within her. Her body shaking in odd patterns, her hair started to look disheveled, with blood on her bottom lips as she smiled at Cassie. As Cassie got closer to her mother and the tree spoke, repeating the words from earlier in a deep and menacing voice. "Leave this place at once, or face the wrath of the forest." Cassie began to levitate, but an invisible force held her firmly in place. She struggled and screamed, but the grip didn't loosen. Her mom was smirking down at her, which Cassie found uncharacteristic. A moment later, she fell back to the ground. Through tears, Cassie noticed her mother was holding a book. She recognized the language on the cover from her ancient history class, Sumerian. She grabbed it and flicked it open. It was a spell book with nothing to lose. She began to recite a magical incantation from the book. A storm began blowing around them as her words seemed to fill the forest with its power. Her mother let out a mighty scream, her body shaking uncontrollably as if being struck by lightning, then fell to the ground. The demonic trees started to wail in agony until suddenly they all disappeared into thin air. Cassie lay down beside her mother, hugging her protectively, but certain she was dead. That evening, Cassie's brother and father found them after mounting a search party. Her mother was rushed to the hospital and treated for shock and exhaustion. Cassie escaped with a few bruises and scratches. Cassie's respect for the earth and quick thinking with the spell had saved them in the end. The family was in shock at what just happened, but at that moment, they felt relieved knowing that their loved ones were safe. Now, the forest lays dormant again, resting, waiting, at least until it needs to be fed once more.